Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Women Thrive Monday with the Colorado Women's Chamber of Commerce. We are so fortunate today to have a CWCC board member, Chantell Taylor, who's also with UCHealth on our video call today. Chantell, welcome. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for serving on our board and for all you do for women in our community.
It's a privilege.
First off, just wanted to have you introduce yourself, just briefly talk about what you do so everyone knows who you are and what you do, and then we'll kick off.
Okay, sounds good. Well, I recently started at UCHealth in the Vice President of Government and Regulatory Affairs role. I just started in that role last fall. I'm an attorney by trade, but I do largely political and policy work. I have been in Denver practicing law for almost 20 years now, which is sort of crazy. I have worked in energy, I've worked in other industries, but I am really loving working in health policy and working for UCHealth. It's such a privilege to work for a mission-driven institution. You know, UCHealth has over 25,000 employees across the state, 12 hospitals, and then a whole myriad of other clinics. And so our footprint is pretty significant in Colorado. We're a very homegrown hospital. We're all Colorado, and we're nonprofit, so we're mission driven. And that really aligns well with my politics and my passion. So really feel like I'm in my sweet spot of my career at the moment.
Awesome. Well, speaking of politics, you know, it's interesting. You and I met, I think we had lunch together and had a chance to really get to know one another. And we connected on, you know, families and kids. And then I got to see you in action in our public affairs committee and how you come alive when it comes to politics. And I was thinking about the world lately and, you know, COVID and the Black Lives Matter movement, and obviously what's going on for women in business and how much work we have to do. And it just struck me, you know, how important it is for us to get engaged politically. And I don't, you know, I know a lot of people in politics, but what draws me to you, Chantell, is your passion and how it comes through, and also how you're able to see both sides really well. And I think you're very gifted at sort of bringing people together. So I thought maybe just talk briefly about, you know, your political engagement, what moves you, how did you learn about it? You know, I know a lot of women are like, oh gosh, it's like, I don't know if I know about that or whatever. Just talk a little bit about your passion for politics.
Sure. You know, it started young, and it's really interesting because I grew up in a very working class, you know, blue collar family. My dad and my mother started their own construction business and, you know, worked really long hours, and I have 3 older brothers. Nobody was really particularly political in my household, but I always had this passion, and maybe it was a bit of, you know, survival because I had to stand up for myself against 3 older brothers and I was the only girl in the house, who knows, but I always had to be an advocate for myself. And I found my voice, I think, really pretty young because of that. It wasn't always political. I used to be a big environmental activist. I worked for an organization in DC that was founded by Ralph Nader and used to do a lot of like human rights, and chained myself to trees back in the day. And, you know, I've done the whole gamut. But what's such a joy about combining my political passion with my business passion is that I have found a center and a sweet spot where I feel like, you know, having worked on very polarizing issues like environmental issues, oil and gas issues, and now health policy, there are such polarizing, strong opinions, and it really pulls people apart. And I take real joy and gratification in trying to bring people together, because there's always a center. There's always some solution, right? Where you have a shared goal, and it's really just finding a way to get to that outcome. So, you know, I think, and what really drives me too, and working with the Women's Chamber, I've always worked with women's organizations. I think I've always worked in industries that are male dominated. Again, maybe I'm a glutton for punishment because of my upbringing and being in a pretty male dominated household, and a conservative one at that. But, you know, I think getting women engaged is so gratifying, because when they find their voice and they find their stride, it's, you know, women are unstoppable.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we're in a time, whether it's, you know, equity issues, racial equity, LGBTQ, or just, you know, equity with pay equity for women. There's a lot of ways we can make our opinions and our voices heard and be effective. And so I will always tell people, get up and get engaged and get out and do something. Don't sit on the sidelines.
Great. Wow. So I didn't know that. So you were an environmentalist and then you worked in oil and gas.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
Yeah, it's really funny. And I think, you know, to the credit of the company that hired me, they saw that things are moving in a different direction when it comes to our energy supplies. And, you know, you cannot live with your head in the sand anymore and survive. You know, whether it's climate change or whether it's a very motivated generation coming up behind us who's expecting more and is willing to sacrifice a little bit more in order to live in a healthy environment. You know, the company that hired me, I think, basically recognized that we need alternative voice, and I was definitely their token alternative voice. So, you know, it's that industry, I think, continues to struggle to find that balance. But it was a real pleasure for me to bring my way left, you know, into a way right environment, and then again try to broker where that center is.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for everything that you do for the Women's Chamber and for engaging us and engaging me politically. I so appreciate you, and I appreciate how you worked with both sides on the Equal Pay Act. It was really monumental. So thanks for all you did.
And that was a challenge, right? Because we have women business owners and we have women employees, and you want parity, but you also want our businesses to be able to thrive in a way that makes economic sense to them. So, you know, sometimes these concepts, whether it's ethics in government or pay equity or paid family leave, of course, in concept, again, in concepts, nobody's really opposed to those constructs, but how do you get there, right? And the devil is always in the details, and you got to look at the, you know, the actual impacts of the legislation and break it down, and then figure out, okay, where are we aligned? Where do we all agree? And again, there's usually always a middle way.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Well, let's get to our 2 questions.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So share with us a time when you persevered either personally or professionally and how you came out of it.
So when I look back at the one time I think that I really had to persevere was both personally and professionally. This was about 4 years ago when I was working for an oil and gas company. Again, very male dominated environment. This was in 2016. And as the government affairs and political director for this company, I was in charge of a multi-million-dollar ballot initiative, statewide ballot initiative campaign. But really a lot was at stake for the oil and gas industry and making sure this measure did not pass. There was a ton of weight on my shoulders. But also at the same time, a 16-year marriage was unraveling. And, you know, I had to find a way to go get up every day and go into this very male-dominated environment. Nobody wanted to see me cry. Nobody wanted to see me lose my edge. Like, and in fact, even the women in the office were not my friends in this respect. I think they were looking for those opportunities to see me fail so that maybe they could, you know, and that was really eye-opening that you can't even rely on some of the women in your office. That was a real challenge. But, you know, all of a sudden I went from having my kids half-time, and I'd have my boss schedule meetings at, you know, 7 in the morning or 4:30 in the afternoon. And, you know, I didn't have a wife at home that was going to go pick up my kids, right? And it might have been my week on where I wouldn't get to see them for the week after. So just trying to deal with that personal new reality, and then also go out and get work done. So I did what women do, right? You just kind of, pull yourself up and go to work every day. And I kicked ass on the campaign and we won. And I rebuilt my life in a matter of a month, built a new house and furnished it and got it set up and off we went, right? And I look back on that time and sometimes I go, geez, how did I even do that? But I am so much stronger for it. I now expect things out of my employer that I didn't demand of my employer at the time. And so it made me a better advocate for myself. It made me a better partner for the women in my office. It just made me a better person. And I think if I look back on something I'm really proud of persevering through, I think it was that moment in time.
And I do think sometimes, women have this phenomenal ability to get through the tunnel, as I call it. And I think we're going through a tunnel right now with COVID. And I am seeing women really rock this.
Yeah.
And I think it's because we do have to manage a lot. And I think that we have a lot to teach the workplace on how to do this. And I think my prediction is that on the other end of this, we're going to come out of it. And it's already happening, right? We're recognizing a lot of female political leaders. But I think we're going to look back on this and recognize, everyday women that have had to get through this. And I want to hear all of their stories. So thanks for sharing that.
Whether it's the homeschooling and juggling work at the same time, and then just dealing with stuff of kids are getting depressed. Their lives have been appended. And we're really dialed into that. Not to say that dads aren't. But women are uniquely dialed into that, I think. And so I feel the weight of my kids' angst. I feel the weight of my work. I feel the weight of my personal health. And so that gets heavy, but I think what women tend to do is get stronger out of it, not let it beat us down, maybe for a moment, right?
Yeah.
That's what we have peers for. That's what we have organizations like CWCC for. I mean, the Women's Chamber the way this organization has pivoted, to stay connected with women, keep us focused still on our personal and professional health and professional development. I mean, I'm really proud to be part of it because I think we're filling a really important space for women personally and professionally in all that we're doing. So congratulations to you for helping this organization make that pivot. It's really been impressive.
We're just a convener of really incredible women. So if you're listening to this and you're an incredible woman, jump on board.
Exactly.
Okay. Last question. What is a mantra you live by?
So years ago when I was dealing with a little bit of postpartum, so many years ago, my kids are teenagers, started practicing Buddhism. And there's a mantra that has always stuck with me. It's not particularly clever, but it really sits in my head because women have a tendency to try to control everything. We want to control every situation. We want to control the outcome. And this mantra is really about you can't control everything, right? So it goes, if a problem can be solved, there's nothing to worry about. If it can't be solved, worrying will be useless. And really the point is, if a problem can be solved, let's get up and solve it. There's nothing to worry about because we're going to solve it. We have a solution. We can take care of it. If it cannot be solved, our stress, the weight of that angst, it's useless. Worrying is useless. We have to recognize what we can and cannot control. And those things you can't control, you cannot let them weigh you down. COVID's a great example, right? I look at this situation and say, maybe this isn't the worst year ever. Maybe this is the best year ever. Because what it's doing is forcing us to reset, reevaluate, step back, be with our families, reflect. When do we ever have time to do that? We're all so busy and we're running around, and now COVID's got us a chance to slam on the brakes. There's nothing myself can do about it. I can wear a mask. I can social distance. And so I'm going to do those things. The things I can't control, I cannot let that worry me or weigh me down. Those things will evolve. And by doing my part on the things I can solve, I feel like, that's going to take That's going to take stress out of my life. It's going to make me a better person. And when you allow your aura, your light, your energy to be positive, that emanates, right? If I have a negative energy because I'm worried about things I can't control, that will emanate as well. So I really try to say, I'm going to control the things I can, and the things I cannot, I'm going to, not fixate, and you have to kind of let some of that stuff go. So that's something that stuck with me.
Oh my gosh, what a great way to end this interview. I just got goosebumps from that because it is so true right now. And a lot of the problems that we're seeing come forward, we can solve, but we cannot solve COVID.
Exactly.
We can't solve
We
the
can
pandemic.
be part of the solution by, wearing masks
Right.
and being respectful. And
Mm-hmm.
so those things that we control, we will control. But the things
Right.
that we cannot, we have to find that place where we can let it go and try to keep that positive energy, because that will emanate. That will make our community better, not stress and depression. And
Right.
and I would encourage anybody, this is such an amazing network, and I think anybody going through those kinds of frustrations or depressions, or just, there's so many resources among this organization that there should be no shortage of people to reach out to and get lifted up, because this organization definitely lifts me up.
Yeah, it's funny. I was speaking on a call this morning, and I said, now is the time to reach out to people, just to reach out. Right? We're not going to probably close a sale. We're not going to do anything. We might not do business together. So what a better time to just reach out to other chamber members to just get to know them.
Yep.
It's a perfect time, and it's a great time to connect. Well, thank you, Chantell. Thank you so much for the interview. I so appreciate you.
I appreciate you. This has been a pleasure.
Yeah. Have a great week.
You too.